Thank you so much, sir, for taking the time to be here. We absolutely appreciate it.
I'm honored to be here. And thank you for that applause. That makes me feel good.
Absolutely.
Amen.
So I wondered if you could kind of give us a status update on where things are.
We must preserve our democracy. That, to me, is number one. We've got to preserve it. And if we're not careful, we will lose it. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much trouble we're in. Even the things that we know for a fact have happened. I cannot think of one person in this whole United States that would not have probably been indicted by now. Not one. Not one. And I've been practicing law. I've been practicing law for a long time. But you know what hurts? What our problem is? We get so caught up in, he's just a flaming progressive from Baltimore City, or he's just a rural Republican from rural, country. We need to throw these labels aside, and we need to concentrate on being Americans. Being Americans. And I really mean that. I mean that because the labels are getting us in trouble. And we are so busy fighting over labels and fighting over party that we forget country. And I think one of the things that has happened is that a lot of people do not even value. They take our democracy for granted.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people, they try to figure out, because maybe they haven't traveled or they haven't seen much in the world, they say, oh God, if we have a hiccup, if I'm not making enough money, if I think somebody has gotten an advantage over me, or if I see people in office that I don't want in office, or there's income inequality, they say, this is horrible. We got to bring somebody in to shake it up. So we bring in somebody to shake it up, and they shake it up. They shake it up. Mm-hmm. To the detriment of a lot of people. And I know you got a lot of questions, but I got to say this. How do you even get out of your lips that you are going to create a situation where you take 27 million people off of health rolls? I don't care who you are, Green Party, whatever, I don't care. There's something wrong with that picture. And let me tell you, I guess maybe it's because of my life. I always say that people ask me, where did your passion come from? My passion comes from pain. It comes from pain. I've seen so much of it. Father deprived of an education, living in South Carolina, and told that he had to come out of school in the 4th grade. So his whole life just so upset that he could not get an education. So he made it his business to try to make sure his children were educated. That's painful for me. It's pain to see my grandfather denied medical care and dying the same night that because he couldn't get certain medical care in the day. Pain sitting in special ed, sitting in special ed for years because they say I talk too much. Come on now. I'm serious about this. It's painful. And so that pain drives me. Pain to see my mother on her deathbed. Her last words were not that I love you, Elijah. They were not that I'm proud of you, Elijah. Her deathbed last words was, please do not let them take away our right to vote.
That's
on her
powerful.
deathbed, and then she died.
Well, my grandmother's final words were, please vote for Al Gore. So, I think we're kidding that way.
We hooked up now. I mean, you got me all excited here, man. It must be this red rug.
Yeah, exactly. What are the next steps for getting us to the point where we realize the need to come together?
First of all, one of the things that I said that when I became chairman is that I wanted to make sure that we did two things. One, that we addressed the needs of the American people the things that they confront on a day-to-day basis, such as the voting rights and such as the census, believe it or not. That's right around the corner.
Coming up.
And things that the Affordable Care Act and make sure we protect them with regard to pre-existing conditions, things of that nature, and corruption in government. But the other thing that I wanted to do was expose them and make sure they understood what was happening in our lives from a governmental standpoint. And I'm not blaming it on President Trump. I didn't come here to beat up on him. Yeah. But what has come about since he's been in office, and the aiders and the people who are in the Congress who are aiders and abettors, okay? So I needed to expose that. Now let me explain you what I'm trying to do. During the Civil Rights era, I think the thing that caused America to wake up is when America saw African American people who were simply trying to exercise their rights, being beaten up and trampled with horses and bitten with dogs. Of course, we didn't have the internet like we have today, but we did have television. And when people saw that, you know what they said? This is not me. Okay. This is just not me. This is not the country that I want to be a part of. This is not the country that I want my children to emulate. Not like this. Mm-hmm. And so they went about the business of getting the critical mass to say, and then you had some great leaders, and on both sides, both parties, mm-hmm. said we can do better. Yep. So what I'm saying is, what I have to do, and I do see it as a mission. As I said to President Trump when I did meet with him, the one time I met with him, I said, the greatest thing that I can do, I said, Mr. President, you are, back then, I think it was 69, and I was 67, and I said, we're getting old, man. And I said it just like that. I said, the greatest gift we can give to generations yet unborn is to make sure we hand them a democracy intact. Right. And so, but to get there, I think it's part of my duty and my mission to paint the picture, to show them what's wrong with appointing somebody the head of EPA who doesn't believe in science. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, it's a little problematic.
Yeah, it's a problem. Mm-hmm. To show them what it is to take somebody like Mad Dog, the general, who was one of the greatest generals that has ever lived.
He's a good man.
And then for him to be dismissed summarily and suddenly become nothing. And I could go on and on and on. I spend every day, almost every hour of my life now, trying to figure out how do I help to wake America up and say we are better than this. We have got to be better.
We must.
And I mean that. Let me tell you something. One of the most painful things that I feel, over the last year or so, I had a knee infection in the knee and had 2 operations. I spent 6 months laying in the hospital. And I tell people that I laid there and I thought about my life, but I also thought about my death. And I said to myself, God, if you just let me up, get me up out of here. If you get me out of here, I promise I will do everything in my power to help you do this job, God, to make this world a better world and to move more towards that more perfect union. And all I'm saying to you is that I think once people wake up and they begin to see, they will make their own decisions.
Right.
They'll make the decision. Americans are brilliant. Yep. But you can't make a brilliant decision unless you got information. And what I'm saying to you, at some point, I believe that it is our duty to turn the ship around. We got to turn it around. The reason why I believe it is because I know what's happened to me. I know that as a son of former sharecroppers, only in America could I rise to where I am today. And I believe that we can achieve anything with a democracy. I believe it. I truly do. But we have to guard that democracy. It's like anything else. People talk about marriage. And they say, it's a wonderful institution. But if you haven't noticed, most people, you know what they say right after that? It's work. You got to work at it. And you do. You got to compromise. You got to be honest with people. You've got to have integrity. You've got to see if you can be on the same page when you can. And even when you disagree, try to figure out how to make things better for your family.
Yep.
And that's what we need to do.
Yeah, now more than ever.
Yeah, and I just believe, the American spirit is so strong that I believe when people begin to wake up, they're gonna say, we like you, we like the way you wear your hair, we like what you do, we like the way what you do, but we want you to be accountable. Now, last but not least, let me tell you this. There's nobody in this room, nobody, who's not accountable to somebody. When I became the chairman, they asked me this question. They say, aren't you happy that you are now the chairman? Oh my God, you've been in Congress for 27 years, and now you're the chairman. I said, no, I'm not happy. I'm not happy because it is a burdensome job. And we're dealing with it in tough times. I said, but you know what? When I think about all that America has done for me, and all the America has done for my family, I owe it to America to take some of my time before I die and try to put things in place for generations yet unborn. And I mean that from the depths of my heart.
Absolutely. So I'm afraid we are under a little bit of time pressure, so we do need to wrap up. But
I'm just getting warmed up, man.
I did want to ask you. I wondered if you had any special words of wisdom beyond those you've already imparted that might give people in the future some sense of what we're living through right now, and maybe give them some hope and comfort for the future should these circumstances arise again.
One of the things that I say to my constituents is that we are in the midst of a storm. And it's a very difficult storm, but we also have to respect the storm. What do I mean by that? We have to begin to ask ourselves, we must say to ourselves, at some point, the storm will come to an end, like any other storm. But the question is not whether the storm will end, but where will we be when it ends? One of the most difficult things, and I'm going to be honest with you, very frank, one of the most emotional questions that I wrestle with is how much damage will be done that will not be corrected during my lifetime. I wrestle with that all the time. So I believe that what we have to do is we have to mitigate the damage as much as we possibly can. And I do have hope. And maybe it's because of my religious background. When you come up in a household where your mother and father are Pentecostal ministers, it's rough now. I say I had double coverage, so you would imagine how they would. Yeah. When I think about my mom, she and Trump just didn't get along. I mean, but I believe this. When bad things happen to you, do not ask the question, why did it happen to me? Ask the question, why did it happen for me? I believe in my heart that President Trump has come along to wake America up. I really do. So I do have hope. I have hope for my president. I pray for President Trump every day and every night. No, I do. Oh, I heard you say that. What do you pray for? No, I pray. But I do. But I do. I pray that he will be a great president. That
Might be a little too late for that, but yeah.
No, listen up. I still believe in prayer. And that he will see the error of his ways. But that he'll reach out. That he'll reach out and to the lady that was in the hospital with me, he'll reach out and see people like that and when I was about to get out of the hospital, I'd been there for a month, and she was getting out in 3 weeks, and she was 80-something. And she says to me, she says, "I'm getting out of the hospital today." And she was smiling. And I said, "What you gonna do when you get out?" And she starts crying. I want him to listen to people like her. And I said, "Why are you crying?" She said, "I'm crying because when I came to Hopkins, they had to give me the operation, but now I can't afford the cure." I wish he could see people like my father, deprived of an education all his life, who, when he came to see me get sworn in 1996, with my hand up to Newt Gingrich, I wish he could see him and could talk to him, tears streaming down my father's face. And I wish he could hear the words that my father said to me. He said, "Now that I see you, my son, who looks like me, who has my blood running through your veins," he said, "I see what you have achieved." He said, "Now I see what I could have been." I want him to talk to people like that. I want him to get it. I want him to get the little girls and boys who simply want to be somebody, are tired of being bullied. This is the question. Will we have been over in that area which is not normal so long that it's like when we're in the dentist chair, and the dentist has put all that Novocaine up in there, and next thing you know, we just become numb to what is going on. Martin Luther King said it best. He said, "There comes a point when silence becomes betrayal." We all have control over this. We do. We can participate in this government. We can urge our children to vote. We can take them to the polls with us and say, "Watch mommy vote." Or take them to, when you're working on campaigns, "You ain't got to work on my campaign. You can work against me. That's fine. But I just want to see you working in this democracy. This is our democracy. This is ours." And I'm telling you, every day when I ride down East Capitol Street, every time I pinch myself. I do. I pinch myself because I think about where I could have been. Sitting in some jail, rotting away. Where I could have been if I had not been able to get out of special ed in the 6th grade. Where I could have been. And then I ride up and then I hear my name on the news. Something that somebody said about me or whatever. And I find it, and just being here. If you had told me when I was a little kid growing up in South Baltimore that I'd be on 60 Minutes, that I would be on President Trump's and Putin's Rolodex.
Yeah, that's
I'm just telling you, only in America. And we have to appreciate this wonderful place that we live in. And we've got to cherish it. We've got to protect it with everything we've got. We don't have to beat up on each other all the time. We need to sit down and try to reason. Is reasoning hard? Yes. But you know what makes it hard? Dishonesty. When you throw dishonesty into trying to be reasonable and trying to compromise, it's like trying to grow grass and throwing cement over top of it. It kills it. And so I am tremendously honored. I want you to understand, my leg may be hurting, but I'm on a mission. My voice is loud, and my mind is clear, and I understand the mission. And I will go to my death trying to make sure that I leave intact as much of a democracy and opportunities and a decent way of life for all Americans, no matter who they are, because I feel that that is my duty as an American. Not as a Democrat, not as a Republican, none of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman.